Today I'm going to give you a little demonstration of the basics of using traditional glass paint. Now glass paint comes, the traditional glass paint that is, comes in just a small range of colours. It's really black and various browns. We've got a little tester here that I can show you against the light box. Can you see that? So we've got black, we've got ancient brown, and we've got Vista brown. And I'm going to be using tracing black today, and I'm going to start off by just mixing some paint, and then we're going to apply some. So let's get on with it. So it comes in a powder. It costs an arm and a leg, so we treat it rather carefully. I'm going to put a spoonful on the palette. I'm going to be a little bit mingy with my spoonful today. If I was doing a proper project, I think I'd put a tablespoon on there. Seal it away and keep it. Now, this is ground up pigment and some ground up glass, and it's going to be fired in the kiln. And the little bits of glass in it are going to fuse onto the glass of your work. In order to make it stick while you're painting, you put a bit of gum arabic in it. So gum arabic is a white powder. So we sprinkle a little bit on there. Like that. And then we're going to need some water. Start with a little and work up. Palette knife, very nice, very handy. So you're mixing it round and you're aiming for a consistency of single cream. Can you see? So that's really quite nice. I don't know whether you can see, there's a sort of nice sheen on there. Nice and smooth, you don't want any bumps left. Any little bits of powder. Okay, that will do for now. Now, I'm going to show you doing a few lines. This is a piece of window glass to have a go at. It's going to need cleaning with a little bit of the paint. It sounds a bit back to front, but it works. So you just put a tiny bit of the paint on a bit of paper towel, and then you clean your glass. Now, the brushes that we often use in this are long, thin riggers. They've got nice long handles, or you can get shorter handles, but very, very long, straight bristles. And each time you're going to do a little bit of painting, you have to put water on your brush. And then you drag the brush through the paint, turning it as you go. And you do a little dobble onto the palette to get rid of any drop that's right at the end. And then let's see what kind of a line we can make. You can hold it quite far back. As soon as you push the end of the brush onto the glass and make contact, the paint should stick. There we are. Drag it along the glass and lift it up. I think I've still got quite a bit of paint on there, but I'm going to take a tiny bit more. I'm going to see whether I can get a thick and thin line. So at the very end of it, you're going to get a thin line, and if you go down, you should be able to get a fatter line and trail off to a thinner line like that. Can you see? Now then, what else can you do? Well, you can interrupt your line, of course, like that. You see it's getting a bit thinner there, and you can see a little drop at the edge. I'll show you this tester piece at the end. Now let's put a bit more water, pull it through. Let's see whether we can get any dots out of this brush. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to sort of angle it up. Oh yes, we can get nice dots. And of course we can use combinations of these marks. Can you see? Of course there's a wide variety of brushes that you can use. Let's try a thicker brush here with one. So again, water on the brush, into the paint, give it a bit of a wiggle, turn it round, drag it as you go. Let's see what this does. Ooh, lovely fat line. If you can imagine you were doing the outlines of a figure and you wanted a really bold line, this would be great. And of course any dab marks you make are going to be nice and big too. Now another option for this would be a sponge. I'm going to go and get a sponge. Here we are. Here's a piece of natural sponge. And again, that needs to be wet. So I put it in the water. Squeeze it out. And let's see if we can pick up a bit of paint. Let's see what that does. Oh, I do like that. Oh, yes. I like a bit of sponge. Let's have a little go at doing an outline of from a drawing. I'm going to put this to one side. I should have said that I'm working on a light box. This is extremely helpful to have a light box, and they're now quite inexpensive and made of LEDs. So a light box helps you a lot. Here is a little bird that I needed to make for one of my panels. And here's the outline. It's in a quarry, or a little square diamondy shape. So you can put your drawing on the light box and then your piece of glass on the top. Now, I must remember I need to clean the glass first, otherwise the paint won't stick. If the paint doesn't stick when you're painting, it's often because you haven't cleaned it. So it feels like you're dirtying it, but actually you're cleaning it. I think it just keys the surface a bit like certain printing techniques you do. So here's my little piece of blue glass in this case, and I'm going to put it on top. So I'm going to take this brush. If you've got a lot of paint in the middle, what you can do is just bring some to the side and use that, which stops you needing to dilute or mess up the main lump of paint. So you have to get yourself lined up, and you need to be one of those things where you need to concentrate and be relaxed at the same time. Quite a few craft techniques like that. I often put on very relaxing music and I tell everybody else to leave me alone while I'm doing this. It's a bit thicker than I'd like, but that's what it is. All the way down to the bottom. You need to concentrate but also be relaxed, and the best painting looks effortless and it looks spontaneous. You can't actually go over a line which has gone wrong, but you can just wash it off and start again. But ideally you want to get a nice sweep to the thing. So I'm going to start from the bird's kind of armpit, if you like, here. There we are. You can tidy up a little bit, but ideally you want to get it right the first time. Now, what's actually quite difficult working like this is where you've really got to turn a corner. So I'm going to have a little go at the shapes of the feathers at the bottom of the body here, but you'll see it's actually can get a little bit tricky to go around the corner. It's also getting a little bit thin. I need more paint on the brush. That's nicer. Just take that round. And that one's going the other way. So then I can put in the nice doubles in the middle. And while I'm here, I cannot resist doing a line from here. I think, can I take it from there? I think I can. Whee! All the way down to the bottom. So that gives you some idea about how to do an outline. Now, the other way of doing things is to go around it the other way around, to put the paint on the glass and then remove it. And as you get better at doing all this, you work out how to coordinate doing a line and doing tone. So I'm going to wash out that brush. And lie it flat. I'm going to prop it up on a sponge here so it's in the air. So I'm going to put that little bird to one side. And on this piece of glass, I just want to quickly show you how you might put a mat on. So again, I'm going to clean the glass. The matting can be a little bit messy, so I'm going to put a piece of paper. So, somewhere I've got my nice flat brush. Here we are. This nice flat little brush. This is a 1/2 inch flatty brush. Bit of water. For making a mat, you have to make a judgment about how thick you want your mat to be. This brush looks a bit too wet, a bit wetter than I'd like. I'm just going to move that so you can see what's going on. So I'm kind of charging my brush up. And then this brush is brilliant for laying the paint onto the glass. Pretty good. So there's a nice flat layer of paint on here. An important tool is the beautiful Badger brush. These are an investment and they're made from Mr. Badger's lovely fur. And what we're trying to do is spread this paint evenly into a nice mat. And so we're going to brush it very, very lightly, very, very carefully over the surface of the paint, changing direction quite frequently. You barely want to touch it, but it does of course need to touch. I've invented a word for this, which is woofling. My students think it's very funny. But you kind of woofle your brush over here. And let's see if I can, yeah, that looks nice and matte. Now you've got choices here. You can have what's called a silk matte, which would be smooth, or you can have a stipple. And I'm actually very keen on stipple because it lets some of the light through. And this is what the paint is doing, it's stopping the light coming through. And if you look at cathedral windows and things like that, it's very subtle what's been going on. It's all about controlling the light, and the way that the certain features glow out of the glass is all to do with controlling the tone around the edges of things. So let's see whether this is the right wetness and dryness to get a nice stipple. So for this we can use the end of the badger brush. So I'm just removing some of the paint here. And I found as well that when you're getting some on the brush like that, but you can use that stipple, you can use that paint you've taken off elsewhere. It can be a very subtle way of building up tone. Okay, so now we're starting to make little holes in that layer. And of course, you can make things seem more three-dimensional by having more off on one side than the other, because it looks as if the light is falling on them, which is actually a very nice effect. So especially if I put this on the light box, you can see now we've got a really rather beautiful stipple, though I say it myself. Here we are again, and I'm just going to show you quickly a few ways to make marks in the mat that you created already, and this one's been stippled. So you can use any tool you like really, but I often prefer to use wooden tools rather than having a go at it with something metal. Wood gives a good feel. So we can make all kinds of lines and marks. We can make straight lines, we can do hatching, we can do wiggly lines of course, and we can remove whole sections of the paint. You soon find the marks that you like, and it doesn't have to be even, it can be a bit wiggly. So I like to brush away carefully, brush away the paint dust. Try not to inhale it. Don't know whether you can see there, it's beginning, but we need to get a variety of marks. So just experiment, kebab sticks, anything you like. Scribbly marks can be fun. Mad little scrawls. Sometimes a mad little scrawl is exactly what you need. But just as with printmaking and stuff, you cannot put it back. Once you've taken it off, you have to just go on and get the balance of light and dark right. What else can we use? Well, if you get an old scrubby paintbrush, you can also make marks with this. You can scrape in, and this can be very, very effective. Scrape into the paint. Often a question of knowing when to stop. I'll show you this at the end. And what else can you use? A feather, very traditional and very nice because they are a bit springy. So that can be nice to get a thick and thin line. Quite fun to use a feather to draw a feather. We all have the kind of shapes that we love to draw. A feather can be good for getting rather broken lines like that. So there's a few ideas for you. I'm going to take a little photograph of that and show you at the end. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.